So recently, Salomon shoes have gotten so popular in the casual space, and I just have not been able to figure it out. I get why they're really popular in more of the adventure space, right? Just considering their pedigree. But after spending 2 weeks out here in the Pacific Northwest, not only hiking around, but also just being a tourist and traveling and just walking around on solid asphalt and concrete, I've finally realized why these are so popular. It's not that they're just quote unquote good for casual wear, which yeah, they are. It's that they are the most useful shoe you could possibly have in your closet. So let's cut them open and let me show you why. Okay, so this right here is the Salomon XT line. The XT-6 Gore-Tex, the XT Whisper, the XT-6, as well as the XT Whisper GTX or Gore-Tex. And speaking of, thanks to Foot Locker for getting me a pair of all these to check out. Obviously, all opinions on these shoes, good, bad, and indifferent, are all my own. Salomon didn't send me these, Foot Locker did. But if you do want to check these out, I will leave a link in the description below to Foot Locker, who has got, and you will see just infinite choices on these on colorways as well as different bells and whistles on them. So let's get into it. Starting off in the uppers, that is the biggest thing that separates the XT-6 from the XT-6 Gore-Tex. So let's check that out first. Now, number one, these have been the hardest shoes to cut open I have ever cut, the Gore-Tex version specifically. The XT-6 were, I mean, they were still pretty difficult, but the Gore-Tex version of the XT-6 in the uppers was just, I mean, I went through 2 knives. I had to get another one out to go through the midsole because the uppers dulled it so much. And when you look on the inside of them, you can see why. I mean, it's got like this ballistic armor on the underside of it. And even getting through the tongue, there's 2 layers of padding in the tongue with holes through it. Now, what I don't understand is they put holes in the tongue. I think it's more for compression because for breathability, I mean, it's Gore-Tex. So on the Gore-Tex version of the XT-6, you're not gonna be getting all that much breathability except for kind of where the tongue meets the uppers. Now, on the XT-6, on just the original version of the XT-6, where you don't have the film backing where the laces come through, it's fog is getting at it everywhere on this in the breathability test. So in terms of breathability, the original XT-6 is just out of this world. I would say this one is the most breathable, followed by the XT Whisper. You can kind of see fog coming out around the tongue and kind of the wrapping around the tongue. Then eventually it does start to seep through the forefoot. But then obviously the GTX or the Gore-Tex of it, it's a waterproofing, so obviously fog and moisture aren't getting out from underneath of it too. Now, that's the thing that I kind of find the most useful out of these is that number one, they're some of the best breathing shoes I've ever put on, but also some of the most waterproof. Because I've seen a lot of shoes that have Gore-Tex on them or say GTX, say Gore-Tex, and they're mildly water resistant. When I had these up in the Pacific Northwest last week, I had these ones. I also had another pair of like all conditions gear shoes. And of course, they didn't have Gore-Tex on them, but these ones, I mean, I was just walking through streams, no problem. My feet were bone dry. And you say to yourself, well, for a casual shoe, who cares? Well, if you're out in the rain or someplace that you think you might be getting through a storm or you're gonna be going through puddles a lot, it is nice to know in a casual shoe that you're not gonna be getting your feet sopping wet. And so some of these things that have been brought over from more of the adventure space into more of the casual space, but that brings me to the next thing that is so useful about these in the uppers, and that is the lacing. Number one, it is a draw cord lace system, which honestly, you would think is annoying because it would be, you know, like you'd have this kind of this much lacing going on, but it also has a little pouch here in the tongue that you can stash the laces in. And so lacing them on and off is super quick and efficient, easy. Plus, this cord is so difficult to cut through. This was actually really difficult. If you look at it up close, I'll try to put it on the microscope so you can see. I mean, this thing is just crazy how strong this cord is, both on the XT-6 and GTX, as well on the XT Whisper. On the Whisper, it is a little bit easier to get through, so it's a little bit lighter of a drawstring cord, but on both of them, it's crazy. Now the lockdown on these things, number one, it's double stitched into this film and it's stitched on the underside of that ballistic layer, but also there's this little plastic or TPU tubing that they go through underneath of it too. You can kind of see it under here. It's got a TPU tubing too. So like the lockdown on them is super strong. You would think this like little wimpy thing here, it looks wimpy, it's not. Plus it has a netting that goes from medial to lateral. So you could literally not lace them at all, just slide them on, be like a pair of slip-ons. They still stay on. Heel slippage on these is really whatever you want it to be. If you tie the drawstring tighter, it's mild to none. If you leave it open, then it's more moderate. It just kind of depends on how much of a a casual shoe you're wearing in them versus how much you're actually walking in them. When I had them on during work, a lot of times I wouldn't even tie it. I just kind of had them loose and really didn't notice like any issues. Now if you look in the rear foot, you do get a lot of bulky padding around the backside of your Achilles. It does get a lot thinner, right kind of where your ankle bones come in. It's really deceiving. That's kind of the other theme of these, is that the shoe is deceiving both in number one, fit and profile, but also what it's hiding underneath of it. In terms of like lace irritation, there's absolutely none, like zero irritation. That's because it sits off the shoe, right? On both of these, it's sitting up off the shoe. And so when it ties down under all that padding, it's just spreading the load out so easily. All right, now getting into the midsole teardown, I tore down an XT-6 as well as an XT Whisper because there are some subtle differences between the two you need to know about before deciding which one you actually like, if not both or neither. Number one, if you look on the XT-6, you'll see this thing here, pronation control. That is an old school biomechanics feature. Back from like, this is like an old school feature that Salomon kind of carried over. As you can see, you've got this plastic, foot. Basically, it comes down here on the lateral side, or the medial side, sorry, as well as on the lateral side. You get two of them on the lateral side, one on the medial, and then it goes all the way into the forefoot. Now, the XT Whisper does not say pronation control on it, but it has the same thing in the rear foot. It's more of a rear foot harness, goes all the way around, and it does have 2 feet. They're just wider spread apart in the rear foot, but it does not go into the forefoot of the shoe. Now, ironically, if you look at the tensiometer, it actually takes more force to get the XT Whisper to get to 45 degrees. It actually takes 41 newtons to get the Whisper up to 45 degrees, where it only takes 36 in the XT-6. And I think that's, you'll see in a second why that is. What's underneath of it is not what you see on the outside. It's actually pretty cool. All right, so when you tear these things open, on the XT-6, this is dual density EVA. Now you actually have higher density foam right underneath of your foot, and then the lower density foam, which is lower in the shoe, which is usually, it's flipped. It's usually the lower density on top, higher density on the bottom. On the XT Whisper, it is just one giant bed of EVA. Now, this guy comes in here at a 33 in durometer. The XT Whisper actually comes in, it's like 33 on the bottom and like into the 40s on the top. It really depends on where you put it, depending on where the cage is. Now, you would think to yourself, like, why is that? Number one, it's because this plastic piece actually is a more peripheral chassis, and then it comes in, it meets itself on the inside. So it's not as stiff on the inside as you would think. Number two, it's just a thicker slab of one slab of foam on the XT Whisper. So in a lot of ways, it's more foam to bend, right? If you look at these things in terms of like torsional control, number one, as you can see, it bends appropriately on the XT-6, and then torsionally, it's really good. Like, it's got such strong torsional control. And then on the Whisper, as you can see, once again, it bends appropriately. It's actually a little bit more difficult to bend the XT Whisper just because it's kind of got more cased foam here on the outside versus the XT-6. And then torsionally, as you can see, the forefoot is actually a little bit more flexible in torsion, but going straight up because there's just a little more foam there. It's just more to bend. So honestly, they're both pretty similar. Now, if you look at the bounce height test of the XT-6 and the XT Whisper, the XT-6 got 25 centimeters in the rear foot and then 31 in the forefoot. A lot of that has to do, there's just more plastic back there, so it's dulling the ball bearing. And then on the XT Whisper, you got 26 and 30. I think that's just the level of foam. The more of this super dense EVA in the rear foot, it's actually more shock absorbing versus in the forefoot where there's more influence of the ground on these things, and that's why it bounced higher in the forefoot. So both of these, put it this way, when you first take them out of the box and put them on, they feel stiff. This is ultra dense EVA. What I akin these to is like the bench seat in my very first truck that I had when I was in high school. My grandfather gave me his truck, and that bench seat, when you first get it, is just like, I remember when I was a kid, it was like super stiff. And then by the time I got it as a teenager, right, it was like nice and soft in there. It just felt amazing. That's what these feel like. When you first put them on, I remember making notes on this right here saying like, you really need a soft insert in here, like a soft orthotic. And then after like a week in them, they just molded to your foot so well. They felt so comfortable, not even with an orthotic. I had the XT-6 on the entire time I was kind of touring the Pacific Northwest. when I was like actually walking around like cities and things like that, like doing more tourist stuff. And I didn't even have orthotics on. They were just fine. The XT Whisper took less time to break in. So it, like I said, it's a little bit of a lighter shoe. There's less going on. It's less stiff foam. But the XT-6, once it broke in, they kind of started equaling each other. And the thing is, with it being such dense EVA, it's going to last so much longer. So you have to put in a break-in on it. Just watch out. The XT Whisper, the break-in was just, like I said, it was maybe a day or two. The XT-6 was probably a solid 4 or 5 days. And then after that, it was basically like an extension of my foot. The midsole felt so good. It felt so contouring. They're definitely not like the ultra plush, soft cloud-like shoes, but as we've seen in like the max cushion category and things like that, there's all sorts of issues that go with that. And there's a whole subset of people that want a more dense, a much more supportive base. And so, like I said, with this whole pronation control thing, like I said, this is nothing new. This is from back in the day, like 90s, early 2000s. And so that stuff is starting to come back into vogue because people are starting to see, like, if you just break in the shoe, you start to get all this great support in the shoe as well as the comfort. And so as you can see, like, these shoes are kind of built on that philosophy that if you give them a break in afterwards, the control, the support in the shoe is really second to none, and then the comfort kind of follows it. All right, now getting into the outsole tread, both of these are that, Conta grip type pattern. As you can see here in the XT-6, it's a huge lugs, like huge chevron patterns on this. On the XT Whisper, they're a little bit smaller, but there's more of them. That may have also been another reason why it took a little bit more force to get this one up, because there's like a bend point right through the forefoot of those lugs. It just may have been easier to bend, whereas you're bending through thicker rubber in the forefoot. That may have been another reason. And so the XT-6 is going to be a little bit more rugged. It's going to grab a little bit more, I'd say more stuff. They'll both grab really well because those big chevron lugs are great. It's a pretty simple pattern, but the one thing I noticed in terms of durability, same thing in the midsole with how durable it is. I put this thing on the durability test in the belt sander for 30 seconds. My scale showed no loss. Now, obviously, there's some loss on there. You can see a difference, right, just in the coloration, but mine only goes to 0.1 grams. And so I think this is the 7th shoe I've tested that's got no loss on it, that the scale could not pick up. A lot of other casual shoes are getting between 0.4 and 0.8 grams of loss, and so these ones nothing. So in terms of outsole rubber, once again, it's a simple pattern, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But the bigger thing on this is grip, but also how durable it's going to be, even if you're using these on asphalt, cement, and concrete. Now, before I get to the fit of the XT-6 and Whisper, this is supposed to be an ad read section for Foot Locker, but I just want to say something. This isn't an ad read, but I was shocked when Foot Locker contacted me and wanted to do like another sponsorship. And they were like, hey, like, what do you want to do? And I go and look at their website, and there's just infinite choice there of shoes now. And I don't know if I just am not remembering them having all these shoes, or if they've just been adding and adding and adding. But this is where I'll get into the ad read. You've got to check out footlocker.com. I have been buying, like, not them sending me, but buying off of Foot Locker now in the last few months so much, because they have the stock of shoes that I want that sometimes even the manufacturer site doesn't have. I don't know how they're getting it, but they are. And the prices have been lower. The rewards have been better than any other site I've gone to. I have so many reward points because you don't get them unless you spend money there. So obviously I'm using them, but I'm always getting coupons. The shipping is super quick, and doesn't matter if I'm going from basketball, running, casual, some of the slides and the mules I've been reviewing, I just go get from Foot Locker. It's crazy the selection they have now, especially in the Salomon line. Like, you should see how many colorways of these shoes that they have. They're like, yeah, which colorway do you want? And it's like, I'm sitting there, like, I'm having to have my wife be like, well, check, this might look good. And I mean, just infinite amount of choice now. So if you do want to pick out, doesn't matter if it's a mule, if it's a runner, if it's casual like Salomon, basketball, dress, doesn't matter. Check out footlocker.com, especially if you want to check out the Salomons, because with this particular line, if you want to get these, they are the place to go if you want choice in color as well as the size you want to. So thanks to Foot Locker for sponsoring this video. Let's get into the fit. Okay, but I think the thing I find most useful about both the XT-6 and the Whisper, because they're both exactly the same in this category, is the fit and how deceiving the fit is on these things. When you look at them head on, as well as, you know, on the overhead cam, what would you say? They look narrow, they look really unforgiving. Nothing could be further from the truth. I could not get over how accommodating these were. Now, number one, if you look at the insole on them, look how narrow the heel is and then how wide the midfoot is here. Now you'd look at this and think, these things are ankle spraining machines. Look how narrow the heel is on the inside. That's the inside of the shoe. The outside has a heel width of 8.7 centimeters, which is actually pretty wide. Now it's the exact same on the Whisper, it's just that the lugs are in different patterns, so it looks different, but it's the exact same. Now second, what else they look like they have? They look like they have, because you can see it better, it looks like they have a crazy inflare. That is an optical illusion. It's only 9 degrees. So it's a super mellow inflare. The shoe is not that bent from rear foot to forefoot. I know it looks like it. It looks like it to me. I'm looking at it up here. It looks like it to me. And it is not. So it's really mellow up there too. Now it comes in true to size, 28.8 centimeters, but then you get 9.8 centimeters of midfoot width in the metatarsals, then 9.8 of toe box width, and then only a 36-degree taper up front. Now, of course, it's not a barefoot shoe. If you compare these, obviously they come to more of a point than a more, I should say, anatomic shoe. But look at the bump out underneath your big toe. Like, that's a huge bump out here. You get a big bump out here over here for your tailor's bunion. I don't know how they masked the width on these things and the accommodation on these things, but they did. I had no width break-in on either of them. I had no cramping, no nothing. They felt awesome, but yet they cinched down to my foot with the cabling, as well as the midsole contours to your foot too, so you're not sliding around in them either. I thought that was the best part of them, because when I got them, and I'm thinking to myself, this is gonna be like a, one of those things where I say like, hey, if you're a 2E or 4E, just good luck, don't even buy them. And then I put them on and I'm like, man, like, this is different. And then I went and measured them and I was like, how are they fitting all this in there? So I'd say, if you're a narrow or medium foot, you can just go true to size on these things. It's fine. A 2E, I can't believe I'm saying this, you just go true to size. A 4E, I would be going up a half size on these things just because they are pretty streamlined here right before you hit the midfoot. So you might get a little bit of cramping here and here. So I'd say a 4E, go up 1/2 size, but the fit forgiveness on these is just out of this world. All right, so who are these good for? In terms of a flat, neutral, and high arch foot, if you, whether you overpronate or neutral or over supinate, I think for a flat foot, this might be one of the best shoes on the market. A high arch, they need a break-in. For sure, they need a break-in. They are gonna feel a little stiff at first. In terms of ankle sprainers, can't believe I'm saying it, yep, fine. Plantar fasciitis, they are good after a break-in, but I would just say put an orthotic in them. That way you don't have to go through that process. Same with Achilles, get an orthotic in there. In terms of forefoot pain, the XT-6, just on its own, right off the bat, is awesome. I'd say for the Whisper, I would probably want an orthotic in there. Arch pain, yeah, one of the best shoes on the market for sure. Big toe arthritis, I would say the XT-6 is a really sneaky, really good pick. You'll obviously want an orthotic in them. I would say the GTX, so the Gore-Tex version of them, is gonna be a harder shoe to fit an orthotic in. The regular version, both of the Whisper and the GTX, the XT-6, I keep getting Gore-Tex and XT mixed up. The regular version of the Whisper and the XT-6, orthotics are gonna fit fine in there. The GTX version, you're gonna wanna break them in before you get a big bulky orthotic in there. If it's a low profile orthotic, you're just fine. Knee up and back pain, once they are broken in, they are one of the best shoes out there. In terms of support, everything else, they are just out of this world. So like I said, a lot of the stuff that Salomon kind of found out from the more adventure category, the more hiking category, things like that, turns out a lot of that stuff is super useful in today's more casual, everyday wear shoe. And now I know that Salomon has just kind of gotten a lot of kind of into the hype beast cycle, and people just like them because they see this and they think, okay, cool, people are wearing it, I like it. But I do think there is something that started that, right, to make them so popular. And I think the spark that started getting them so popular is that they are just such a useful shoe. There's just endless uses to these, whether you're hiking, walking, touring around, wearing them to work. If you live in hot climates, cold climates, rainy climates, arid climates, it really doesn't matter. They just have something for you, especially if you go from the XT6 line to the GTX to the Whisper, I'd say the Whisper to me, they're lighter, they're just a little bit easier to move around. If you want a lighter shoe, get the Whisper. If you want more bells and whistles, go with the XT6. I think if you want a little bit more moldability, you go to the XT6. But let me know in the comments down below, do you think that there's an actual reason for how popular Salomon is? Is it because of all this useful stuff in the shoe? Or is it just because of the hype cycle? Let me know in the comments down below. And thank you to Foot Locker for sponsoring this video and for getting me all these pairs to check out. If you want to check out them, like I said, I'll leave a link to them in the description below, especially if you do want to buy any of these. They have got just infinite colorways of these, really, no matter what you're trying to go for, they've got. So thank you again to them for sponsoring this video. I'll see you in the next one.